I want to hit, we were hoping to have a video. There's a long video, about 16 minutes, but we were going to extract 3 minutes. It was of, in Cameroon, Senator Simon Phoebe. And he was talking in Parliament and addressing the defense minister. And he said some harsh things, I thought. And Fru can maybe translate this into, does it seem harsh to you? But he compared what's happening to genocide and to Rwanda. We all remember, what was that, it was Bill Clinton was president.
That was 1994.
Yeah. The terrible hundreds of thousands killed in Rwanda. And then he says that in the English-speaking part of Cameroon, the economy has gone to the dogs. That's not a positive statement. And he says medical care is being suppressed and vaccines destroyed. That's not good. So, and then he called for a ceasefire. That's my summary.
Your Excellency, the Minister Delegate in charge of Defense, I pay you my respects. Right Honorable Speaker, if I take the floor, it is not the first time, and on many of these occasions we have been to draw attention to what we've referred to as the problems of the Northwest and Southwest, but today particularly as concerns the Ministry of Defense. The original question I sent to you, sir, had 4 points on it. The question concerned the prisoners that were arrested in the Northwest and Southwest, their numbers, the treatment that were given them, and where they were being held. It concerned the soldiers that were sent to the Northwest and Southwest, not only as at the time when we were expecting that there would have been policing officers, we got military officers. That's the question that was sent to you about a state of occupation, an army of occupation. That was the second point. The third point was about the punishment that would have been meted out to the soldiers who didn't follow your instructions. And the third was the general violence and the climate of violence that was developing in the Northwest and Southwest as a result of the increased military presence and the use of live bullets and so. That was 9 months ago, sir. And with your permission, I would like to bring you up to date, because the situation has evolved significantly. And I'll count on you, on your indulgence, to bring the House up to date too on these issues, because they are current, they are happening today, as opposed to what happened 9 months ago. The first situation, sir, is that as of today we are talking, you yourself, you gave us the figure of 84 soldiers that had died as of end of May. We are certain that there are more today. It's a disaster for our own soldiers to be dying in the process of killing their own brothers. As we were losing soldiers, our own estimate is that we have lost more than 2,000 civilians in the process. There's an estimate of about 170 villages that have been wiped out from the face of the globe, in what you call in French, rien ne bouge. It's a scorched earth policy. We have 120,000 refugees. We have counted about 9 camps in Nigeria where they're located. We don't know what your own figures are. And more than 200,000 internally displaced people. Most of us in our houses in Yaoundé, in Douala, Bafoussam, we have received overwhelming numbers of compatriots who are running away from a war zone. What you're seeing, sir, is a genocide that is taking place. At the same time, there are curfews that are being put in. Citizens are being arrested for no reason outside the curfew, and they have to pay significant sums of money, up to 250,000, to the army before they can be released. That, you will tell us more about it. That's in the form of ransoms and everything. We are now entering certain domains because in times of war, you don't know what is fact and what is fiction anymore. The kind of information we are getting, which can only be authenticated from your high officer, is that the French soldiers are already in the northwest. We saw pictures of some of them. They were coming with dogs to fight. That missiles are being used, surface-to-surface missiles, with a range of anything between 1.5 kilometers to 15 kilometers. A pregnant woman was dead, was shot by one of those missiles. We are told that helicopter gunships are being used, and you know the indiscriminate nature of the killing that can take place when you use a helicopter gunship, just as it happens when you use a missile. We are told that the drones that the Americans gave to be used to fight the Boko Haram are being used for their heat-seeking searches of people, that they are being used in the northwest and southwest. Again, it's the domain where I would like you to clarify the public opinion. And at the same time, we are told that chemical weapons are being used. These are all elements of genocide, the numbers and the tactics of warfare. You are in front of the people's representatives, and it is time you tell us what is actually happening. I don't want to go into the economy because it's not in your domain, but as you know, the economy has gone to the dogs. I mean, the northwest and southwest have essentially come to a stop. One domain which is bothersome is the domain of health. Because what is happening is that the army has moved into the hospitals and has started threatening the doctors. Any doctor who treats anybody from the war front is the subject of a threat by the army. And the doctors and nurses now are refusing to treat the people. I give you the case of last night in Batibo, where the pharmacy was broken into and 38 million worth of vaccines were destroyed. And right now, people themselves going to the hospital, citizens going to hospitals, they don't have access to the care because the doctors and nurses are afraid of their lives. They are under threat from the army. Sir, this is roughly a sketch of what's going on. I am addressing myself to the Minister of Defense, Minister Delegate of Defense, and the information I have is to the effect that you are one of our finest products from ENAM, therefore one of our finest brains. And in the course of the reflections that we are going to have, one of the reflections we are going to have, sir, is what lessons have we learned from Rwanda? Because after Rwanda, the world said, never again. And here we are now, phenomenon repeating itself. Never again. As I'm talking to you right now, people who were involved are still being arrested to be tried. Again, within the same framework of reflections, what have we learned from Nuremberg, the trials of Nuremberg, about the responsibilities in wartime? The lessons are clear. We have a responsibility to a civilian population, just as we have responsibilities to military, to combatant personnel. International humanitarian law on that is very, very clear. And that is where I'm calling on you to make sure that humanitarian law is being respected, as you know it should be. And I will quote your communication officer who said, we have a professional army. I would like to believe him. And even if they are faulty, you as the key person, you have corrections to make. I see your role, sir. I have never been a Minister of Defense, but I see your role as twofold. The first part of your role is to advise Mr. Biya, because Mr. Biya is commander of the armed forces. He takes the decisions which you must carry out. And you must advise him with these realities. The second part of your responsibility, as I see it, again, I might be wrong. I've never been a minister of defense, and believe you me, I don't, it's too difficult for me. But it's the control of your troops, the instructions you give them. The instructions you give them, especially when they are going against Cameroonians. I would like to remind you, if there is a famous war theoretician who said, war is too serious a matter to be left in the sole hands of the army. That's where you and I politicians come in. War is too serious a matter to be left in the sole hands of the army. We must put into the minds of our soldiers the responsibility for life. Obviously the responsibility for the nation. Yes, but the responsibility for life. That is why I'm talking about responsibility, and more responsibility. So, right now you are talking about humanitarian gestures, which a priori would be very good when I see soldiers of the BA going out to hand over help to villages in this area. A priori is very good. But what is actually happening? Their first reaction when they see a soldier is to run and hide, because they know. And who is to tell them that these soldiers are not coming to get information during the day to kill them at night? So our first responsibility before we begin any humanitarian gesture is a ceasefire. A ceasefire. I would insist that it be a bilateral ceasefire. Work on getting a ceasefire so that the humanitarian gestures can get into place. While you are doing that, sir, and it's something that is not being done now, we must cultivate the language of peace. You must cultivate the language of peace. Once you begin to refer to some persons as dogs or goats, or as secessionists or terrorists, I think they will listen better if you say, my dear brother, let's meet on the table tomorrow to talk. Let me remind you again that it is not a sign of weakness to talk to your brother. Far from it, it's a sign of strength. It is not a sign of strength for a man full of muscles to beat his wife because he has the muscles. It's a sign of weakness. That man with the strength and everything faced with this in front of this woman would have many other techniques of convincing her, and believe you me, those techniques exist. And love is one of them. So, sir, this is the reality of Cameroon as it is today. As I said, I may be wrong, and you have the responsibility of passing the message to your troops. Mr. Biya must begin to talk. He must talk to his brothers. There must be an atmosphere of peace accompanied by a language of peace. If you don't mind, I'll remind you that the last time you were in front of this assembly, there were some rather bellicose words you used. I would pray you, sir, to begin the language of peace. And that said, I would hope that we get to the table very soon so that we can keep Cameroon one where our brothers will not be killing each other. I thank you, Mr. Minister of Defense. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor.
Drew, how did you see it?
I think you will put your finger on the point, Cliff. Not only that, but armies are going into the farm and destroying crops. So that, and you see his presentation, he was very polite in presentation, and that is talking to the, I would say, the occupiers, and in the sense that they are using the same language that they use in Rwanda, calling people dogs, calling people the brothers, the enemy, the terrorists, and things like that. And he called on them that for meaningful negotiation or talks to go on, you have also to encourage peaceful language, friendly language. When once you don't use that kind of, you create an atmosphere of violence, the only thing that you get out of that atmosphere is violence. So the current situation, as you watch the video and he explains it coming from what is happening on the ground, thousands of miles away, but that video itself really explains the condition of people on the ground. Vaccines, medication, hospital burned, schools burned, elderly people killed, and unfortunately, the world is really in complete darkness as to exactly. I think it's a good comparison when he talked of Rwanda, because the world really opened its eyes when bodies were floating in rivers, and almost 800 and something to a million people were slaughtered. And guess who was behind in Rwanda? It was the French. They were quiet. They tried to block all avenues of publicity. And in Cameroon, it is the French. And the good news in Rwanda is, after 20 years, Rwanda is one of the most progressive countries in Africa. And Rwanda has completely changed from a French-speaking country to an English-speaking country in 20 years. And the development, that should really tell whoever what the French policy in Africa is not really productive, and that's where we are in Cameroon. For the Cameroon to really join the community of peaceful nations, those two countries should really maintain their system as they were independent countries, but I mean, they are condemned to be neighbors forever. So all they need to do is bilateral ceasefire, and talks should start.
Okay. I did notice that Senator Phoebe was very British in the way he presented it. Calm, cool, collected, no ranting and raving, but laying out the facts and encouraging others to acknowledge those facts. So yeah, I'd like to follow up on that in the weeks to come.
Well, I'm going to defer to Fru because he has to leave.
Oh yeah, thank you, George. Yeah, Paul, welcome, and
Thank you.
I think I am very encouraged for Lowellians to be stepping up to participate in local politics, and I believe that you must have observed that there are certain things that are good and there are certain things that need to be improved on, or that the current city council not doing as much as certain things that you'd want to improve in Lowell. Could you, as I ask all the candidates, what needs to be improved, and what is your vision, or what do you think, after listening what the issues are, what are your own suggestions of making the whole Lowell, not only District 7 where you and I reside, because I'm very anxious to see what you are going to bring to our district and to Lowell in general.
Right. From walking and knock on doors, and there are a number of issues that resident was talking about. Most importantly, they feel like there is nobody that representing them to hear their concern, to hear their voice. So, and I say, well, September 21st, the election, you can elect me so I can be the voice, the eyes, and the ears of the community. In addition to the economic recovery, what I see in the acre particularly is the neighborhood development. I'm thinking of more of beautification of the areas. The street need to be cleaned, and also there's some more lighting needed, and trees planted and stuff like that. If you look at Salem Street, where UMass Lowell, the river crossing on Salem Street, you can tell where the border that property belong to UMass Lowell, where the property belong to the city of Lowell on the street. You can tell the difference. So that need to be addressed. And then a number of people talked about, so many cars. Most of the cars parked on the street belong to UMass Lowell students, and they would like to see somehow UMass Lowell taking care of the student, because they have an empty lot where in the corner of Fletcher Street and Pawtucket Street. There used to be a Shell gas station, and then now it become beautiful, and it's empty.
Doesn't pay taxes either.
Huh?
Doesn't pay taxes anymore either.
I know that's your big issue, why they don't pay tax. But I don't mind because they make that area more beautiful than it used to be. The only thing that I would love to see is somehow working so that the student after hours, at night can park there with special permit from UMass Lowell as a student there while they live here in the city of Lowell, rather than take up all the space on Bauer Street and in Salem Street. Just one particular example. A number of residents that I spoke with passionately told me about that, do something, do something. And then the other issue, I met with some of the residents in small street, the speeding. So they said, is there a way we can put like a speed bump, so that people would not cut through from the main road connected to another main road. I'm using Columbus Street, Columbus Ave as an example from Wilder Street. They cut through to Walker Street. And there's small road, and there's a lot of family with children on bikes, and I walked yesterday and last week. The same message say, is there a way we can put some sort of a speed bump, so this way will reduce the speeding, down their street. So a number of residents, that's the issue that they would talk about. And I'm sure other neighborhood as well. But since I represent District 7 and my time spending knock on doors, these are the issues that, that come up again and again and again. The third issue that I heard a lot is that, there's a lot of, I mentioned earlier, beautification. Some absentee landlord let the yard go without taking care. And then in the wintertime, this sidewalks not being plowed, things like that, and especially a bigger unit of apartment. Those are the issues that I've seen that lack representation because there's no one really particularly, pay attention to the neighborhood. That's why people are excited to hear that there will be district representation. They say, okay, we have issue, we know who to call and can hear our concern. And I say, well, you still can call the city hall. And they say, yeah, I called city hall, but which number should I dial? There's a lot of departments that people are not aware of. So this is an exciting election. So people are encouraged to hear, and they're looking forward to have the opportunity to elect their district representatives.
So, Fru, since you're going to have to skedaddle in a little, do you have any more questions for the candidate?
Just one question to all the candidates,
Yeah.
because once you're running, it's good to focus on your district, but also the bigger picture is Lowell.
Yes.
Because as a candidate in Lowell,
Yeah.
it's not only the people in your district that can form your candidacy.
Yeah.
So you look at the bigger picture.
Right.
As well as you are focusing on your particular district. But I think the most important thing for all the candidates is what is Lowell going, how am I going to make Lowell a good city for all of us?
Right. With the improvement of each district will bring the bigger picture of making Lowell a beautiful and a place to live and raise family. I always use analogy as bodies. The body is the city, and each members of the body, eyes and ears and mouth and hands, will enhance the body. If your eyes are not well, your body is not going to be well. So the district is almost like members of your body. So it's each members of the body are good condition, the whole body will be in a good health. The same way each district are taken care of, beautiful, and well taken care of the residents. That whole city would also benefit, as a whole.
I'd like Marty Hogan to address the same issues. Marty, how do you think the city's going to handle the district idea? I mean, I would make fun of this last year when this was before the city council caved and decided to go to district voting. That every district's going to want a new swing set, and every district council is going to have a platform to stand on. What have you done for our district? Well, I got this brand spanking new swing set for us.
Yeah,
So
I think.
how do you think we should handle that?
Well, I think that now that we have districts, I think that you get a better vision and sight of what each area needs, as opposed to 9 at large that will be dealing with everybody. Now you have pinpoint, I hate to use the word accuracy, but accuracy on what is needed in each area, and the point person to go to and to bring those things to life at the city council. At the same time, with the at-large, they can deal with the whole city. I think it's going to take working together as district councilors to make sure that not any one district is put ahead of the others, but
Right.
I think that the overview, where we be able to see what we're lacking, like for instance, over in my Centerville section, one of the biggest issues this year has been the fact that a lot of the roads, and we have this rotating system of choosing roads, but certain roads always get neglected, they aren't being done. And if we can actually get the numbers and know how many haven't been done versus how many have been done through that person, then we can put that all together to see the whole of the city. I like what Paul said about the body versus the individual pieces, but my job will be to make sure that the people in Centerville are taken care of and that our lives are, and quality of life is improved. That's what his job will be, or whoever it is that wins the seat over in 7 will be. But at the same time, we'll all have to work together to make sure that none of us are put ahead of the other and none of us also take away from the other. So maybe this will give us a greater idea of how much we lack or what we need to do in each section.
And as I mentioned earlier, if I may interject here, is that each district will try to win for their district. However, we need to prioritize, since the resource is limited, prioritize in a way that, okay, the issue that you brought from the district, your district, and then the issue that I brought from my district, they has to do with health and well-being affecting the resident. Health and well-being, are they affecting the health and well-being of the residents?
And
So
I can
that's-
tell you, the
yeah,
best thing about that is that instead of being focused on one
right.
section or 2 sections or 3, now it will be brought to light what each section needs.
You got some parting words saying goodbye to the audience, or are you just going to skedaddle?
What an interesting discussion. That's all I can say. It's good for Lowell.